everyone, and welcome back to my channel, What the Beck. Unless you're new and then welcome for the first time. I realize that I say welcome back every single time. But today I'm going to be showing you my bullet journal for October. I went really artsy this time and I put less spreads into the actual video because I wanted to focus on the quality of the ones that I did make rather than just showing you a lot of pages. So of course for October, I wanted to make it spooky theme because Halloween is coming up. Today is the first day of Halloween, and I really wanted to get into that seasonal, festive kind of spooky mood. So I grabbed all of my spooky washi tapes and my colored pens, and I said, this is gonna be the most extra month that I've ever done in my bullet journal because I love Halloween, and I wanted to express that so that you all know that as well. So this month I picked the quote that is, "Today's creepy is tomorrow's necessity" by Sean Parker, and honestly I have no idea who Sean Parker is, but I wanted something that I could draw gummy worms around, and that seemed perfect. And I was also able to incorporate this ooey gooey dripping letters like font from, you guessed it, Cindy Gunter-Baldo. She made a font with that kind of drippy looking aesthetic to it a couple years ago, and I wanted to incorporate it into some type of thing in my bullet journal. I didn't really want to do it for my lettering challenge because it does take a lot of time, but I figured the quote page is the next best place to put it. Then the next thing that you'll see me do is lining my cover page for the month. So the inspiration for this was obviously Halloween, but I really wanted to do kind of a shape text where October was a pumpkin, and it took me quite a while to get the word to actually fit into the shape in a way that I liked, but I think it turned out pretty good in the end, and I showed it to my mom and she really liked it too. I think one of my favorite parts of the page are the bats hanging down off of the tree and the cat and the eyes that are looking out of the little cave in the tree. It just adds to the spooky feel, and it's not necessarily scary, but it's kind of like, you know, it's on brand for autumn. This month is already turning out to be pretty scary because I had 3 projects that were due today, one of which was an essay and the other was a group project. So we had to work in a group, which we all know everyone hates group projects. And it wasn't a problem within our group members, it was just we all weren't really motivated at all, so we had to kind of like kick each other to get stuff done. But in the end, it all turned out fine. I turned in everything that needed to be turned in, and hopefully I get good grades on it because I did work really hard on that project for myself, that essay. I am getting pretty hyped up for Halloween. I already have my costume, and it's actually my first store-bought costume, and I got the Spider-Man costume from Spirit Halloween, and it's actually kind of funny that I got that because when my partner was in town a couple weeks ago, he drove me to the Spirit Halloween to get that costume, and then immediately afterwards we went to GameStop and bought the Spider-Man game for him to play while I was in class. I know that my costume is gonna be really fun to just play the role of Spider-Man, and I've actually gotten 2 cans of blue silly string to shoot out of my wrist, and I'm actually planning on sewing an elastic rig so that I can wear it on my wrist and just squeeze it and then the silly string will shoot out, so that'll be interesting to work on. I actually told my partner that he should be Captain America for Halloween, but he's an adultier adult than I am, so he didn't really want to dress up. But I think he looks really similar to Chris Evans, and he's got big muscles from being in the military, but he didn't want to, so I guess I'll just have to maybe draw a picture of him as Captain America and satisfy that need in my heart. I think the main similarity that always gets me is my partner's new hairstyle is around the same length as Captain America's in the most recent movies. So, back on topic. If you can see in the video, I'm coloring with pencils, but these are special pencils. They're watercolor pencils, which means you can draw with them and then you get a brush with water on it and you can blend them out, and it makes for some really cool effects, which you'll see later on in the video. I actually got these on sale from Michael's a few months ago, and I have no idea how much they were, but I think they're a pretty good value, and the colors, there's enough colors to work with. Well, of course, it would always be nice to have more, but I think it's perfect for like a beginner set, so I would recommend this Artist Loft set of pencils for watercoloring. I do suggest that if you use these pencils or any kind of paint into your bullet journal at some point, always put a piece of paper or two behind the page you're working on, because even if it ends up bleeding through one page, you can make sure it doesn't get on the others behind it. And I did have a little bit of an issue on the edges because I was moving the paper around and just some paint ended up on the other side, which is negligible for me, but if you don't like your pages to have smudges, you want to make sure you don't move around too much. If you've been watching my channel for a while, then you might know that I really love the Inkjoy Gel 0.7 gel pens, and they're about $2 each from Michael's, or you can get like a set of 14 for like $10 at Walmart. That's how much I got mine for when it was the back to school sale, but I know the price probably went up since then. But unfortunately, I won't be using this pen for watercolor pencils or any kind of painting in the future, because if you can see in my little pumpkin in the center, it does bleed a lot. Sorry about that, that's my Google Calendar telling me I have class in 30 minutes. But yeah, my favorite pens bleed with water, so just make sure that if you're going to do watercoloring, you test beforehand, like draw with the pen you want to use for your lining, and then let it sit for maybe 10 minutes and then go over it with your water and see if it bleeds, because I wish I had done a test before, but luckily it didn't really ruin my page. I did really like how the tree ended up looking, and I managed to get some texture in there just by not coloring in the tree fully, but doing some strokes with the brown pencil that go in the direction of the grain of the wood, and then painting it with the water, letting it dry, and then going over it with a black pencil dipped in water, which I've never heard of other people using that technique, because when I was in school, everyone told us that you were supposed to draw with the pencils first and color everything in and then go in with the water. And you can add other layers and stuff, but no one ever told me that you could dip it in the water. So I experimented with that for the texture of the tree, and then I actually went over it again with the wet brush, and it turned out pretty cool. At this point in the video, it does look kind of dark, but when I spread it out, it got a little bit lighter. And I think it turned out looking pretty cool. I'd actually be interested to know what you think about watercolor pencils. Have you ever used them before? Do they look interesting to you? Do you absolutely hate them? I think there's a little bit more control than actual like watercolor paint, and I like that about them, but it's also so unpredictable, like to know how dark the colors are going to be or how many layers you're going to need to put on. So just let me know in a comment what you think about watercolor pencils. For you, it's only been a second, but for me, it's been like an hour and a half since I had to go to class. But I'm gonna just leave this part with no talking and music until I get into the other page, and then I'll talk about the marker techniques that I used, but for now, enjoy the music. hopefully you liked that musical break. That music is actually by my friend, Sound Designer Jeans, on Tumblr, and she makes awesome music. That one is called Slurmicide. Be sure to check out the link in the description so you can follow Jeans on Tumblr, and we're actually going to be starting a podcast pretty soon, so if you're interested in that, just keep following my channel and follow her on her Tumblr and you'll know when we start that. So the half of the spread that I'm working on now is actually entirely done with cheap brush markers. I'm not sure how much either of them cost because I got them secondhand, but it just goes to show you that you don't need fancy Tombow markers to make something that looks pretty good. And I admit that these colors are pretty like standard, like bright rainbow, but I think it's better to use what you have rather than buying a bunch of $3 markers every month. That's just my personal opinion on it. And I think that planning around the colors that I knew I had helped me to use them in like not really an eyesore-ish way. I don't even know if that's a word, but I did make an effort to use the colors that I knew I already had rather than thinking I want to do like a peach and navy theme and now I need to go buy a peach and navy Tombow. And the theme of the month is kind of giving me wiggle room. Haha, wiggly like a worm. In any case, it was like candy colors, like bright, like when you see these colors you think of like Skittles and Lifesavers and stuff like that. But I think if you just use what you have, it's usually better off than spending a bunch of money, especially when you're going to college like me. So here you can see where I kind of had a happy accident, in the words of Bob Ross. I had originally put down that yellow part on the like drippy letters because I wanted it to be a highlight, but it turned out that the markers wouldn't blend as well as I thought they would, so I guess that is an advantage of having the expensive markers. But they weren't blending, so it didn't really end up being a highlight, so I just colored over it and added a darker green at the bottom of the letters, and then I put on a highlight with a white gel pen later on, which you'll see, and I think that kind of satisfied what I wanted with like the high contrast within each letter, but while still staying within the abilities of the specific markers that I was using. So that's my cover spread just about done. As you can see now, I'm adding in the gel pen on top for the highlight. And the next thing that I want to work on is my lettering spread, and I'm also doing Cindy's lettering challenge for this month as well. I did it last month for the first actual month that it was made for, and I think it turned out pretty well, and I got fairly good at doing it every day rather than like a bunch at the end of the week, which is what I used to do. And I did cursive last month, so I'm thinking that I'm doing bubble letters this month, but if I run out of room I might have to switch back to cursive because I can just do that easier in a smaller space. And oh my gosh, you cannot believe how excited I was to use all of these Halloween themed washi tape, because I've had all of my like washi supplies since around January because I asked for them for Christmas from my mom, and that's when all the sales were, and I started bullet journaling in January of last year. So I've been holding on to these for 10 months and I finally get the chance to use them in season, so I was like ready to jump on it. Now you're seeing me set up a weekly, and I think this is what I'm... Okay, wow, rude. That was a motorcycle. The good news is I'm getting a new mic this week, so you probably won't be able to hear that next time, but as I was saying, I don't like to set up all of my weeklies at the beginning of the month. I know that works better for some people, and it's easier to just set aside a chunk of time to set up your whole journal, and then when you use it, you're too busy to even put it together. But I like decorating it every week, and it's kind of like a zen moment, I guess. So I decided that I'll only make the first week in the video just to show you like an example of a layout that I'm experimenting with. And then you can try it, and if you actually like this layout, then you can tag me on Instagram at ediblewishes and I'll be sure to like it. And don't worry, if you do want to see what my other spreads look like for the other weeks of October, you can follow me on Instagram at ediblewishes like I said, or you can wait until the November video for setting up my bullet journal, where I'll show you a flip through of October and you can pause it and take a screenshot if you want to recreate a spread that I made. That's totally up to you. That little section on the bottom is actually going to be my food tracker I'm not necessarily trying to eat healthier, I'm just trying to make sure that I eat like 3 meals a day and that they're not entirely made of trash. So that's what that section is for, and you can see me working on my homework tracker just to make sure I stay on track. And here's a flip through of my month. If you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, please leave a like on it and consider subscribing to my channel. Bye!